Welcome to Etihad Cargo Connections. I'm your host, Rowan Anderson, and tonight we are joined by trainer Ado McGuiness. How are you tonight, Ado?
Great, thank you very much.
Excellent. Thanks for joining us. This will be good.
Pleasure.
Beautiful, beautiful. So we'll start at the start. Where were you born and where did you grow up?
I'm born right here where I'm born in North County Dublin in Ireland. I'm still here in this very same place that we were born and bred. Never left it. I'm probably only a few hundred yards away from, where I've lived all my life.
That's awesome. And how did you originally get into horse racing and to be working around and growing up around horses?
I come from a vegetable farming background. That's where this part of the country in Ireland is all vegetable country. And my dad always had a pony or a couple of ponies at home on the farm. He had some livestock as well, but it was mainly vegetables. And we always had ponies. And I had a first cousin of my dad's was not too far over the road. He bred a few horses as well, and he was a bit of a character of a man, and he'd done a lot of hunting and that. And we we were with him as I used to go over to him and help him sometimes, and just been at home riding the ponies at home, and it developed. Then we'd done a lot of show jumping as a kid. I'd done a lot of show jumping and went from there.
And what was about horses that got you passionate, as well as when did you have an idea that you want to make a career around horses?
I done a lot. I actually grew I grew tomatoes for years and I grew strawberries for years, but I done horses part-time always. And then myself and my sister opened up an equestrian centre for 20 years, and we ran that. And at that stage, I was in my early 20s, mid 20s. I was doing a lot of teaching kids show jumping as well, and we went represented teams all across Europe as well, and I used to get great satisfaction at that. But I always had a passion for racing. I loved racing. Like come Cheltenham or any of the race meetings, we'd just stop and watch race. You'd take awesome. A day or two to watch it, and we just loved it. And it developed from there. As I said, I used to whip hounds with a local hunt pack as well, and done a lot of hunter liveries as well. And I used to go, I was a bit crazy out there when I was doing that. But I was always too heavy to be a jockey. So I used to get a great thrill out of that, riding cross country and riding out around country. And I had he was a client of mine in the show jumping world, and he come in one day and he says, "I'm going to buy a racehorse." He said, "Will you train it?" And I said, "I will." So that's where I started. And I never worked anywhere in my life, only on the farm at home here. And I done a bit of probably just watching people and training, made plenty of mistakes along the way, but my theory is only make the same mistake once. And you know, I don't think there's anybody in racing that hasn't made a mistake.
Yeah, most definitely. And so did you own horses before you got into training?
Yeah, never race horses. No, we was always half breds, and it was just when this guy bought this horse, and I thought it was very easy for us because the very first runner I had was second it was National Hunt at the time, and he was second in a bumper, which was their start off races and there was 30 odd horses in the race, and I said, God, this is going to be easy, but I tell you what, I soon learned that it wasn't.
Yeah, most definitely. I've actually just bought into my first racehorse recently. So she's a young filly. She had her first race in my state on the weekend, ran 7th, but she's backing up this weekend again over further distance. So hopefully she goes a lot better than she did on the weekend.
Yeah, look at it. There's a great thrill in owning a racehorse.
Yeah, most definitely. Yeah, most definitely.
And when you get a good one, then the thrill just goes.
Yeah,
it's money can't buy it.
Yeah, that's it. And so, when did you actually get your training license?
Got my training license in 1999.
Okay.
Just 1999. Now we'd very few horses. We'd only 1 or 2 horses, and then I went up. This guy that actually started me off, he'd 10 horses with me, and we were just sort of very small operation. And then he ran into he sort of quit and sold the whole lot. So I was basically left in early 2000s. I was left with practically 2 horses, 3 horses in the stable. Real struggle. Contemplated 2 or 3 times whether to just draw the line. My wife was giving me plenty of sticks. She said, "You're making no money. You can't be doing this." I had liveries, just ordinary half-bred liveries at the time as well. And it was very, very hard. It was tough. And only I had the passion. And we guys in our country, we worked very, very hard at this game. And only we had it, and the amount of hours we put into it, you know, I was lucky that, you know, that it developed then for me after that. But we put a lot of hours into it. Some people just say to me, "What are you doing this for? You know, you're working 7 days a week. You've no days off. You know, that's crazy." But we do it, and to me, this game is like if you're you know, if you're what would I say, an alcoholic or a drug addict, you can go for therapy, but if you're addicted to horses, I don't think there's any therapy for it at all.
Yeah, and you mentioned your wife a moment ago. Your stable's a real family affair, a family business, as it were. Was that always the plan, or was it something you never really planned?
No, my wife was working actually, and she was working in the medical devices at early in the early 2000s and that for a long time in the medical profession, and probably only she was doing that now, and with a family of young kids, we would have really struggled. I don't think I would have been able to nearly afford to keep going at the time. Well, it would have been very, very tough. And then a few years back, she finished up and she jumped on board with me, and she does all the accounts and that, and you know, different thing, goes racing as well. But I've my kids then involved as well. So
Yeah. Yeah. And you said you started with about 2 or 3 horses. How large is the stable currently?
we've 40 horses right now at the moment.
Yeah.
We would probably like to upgrade it. We're actually in the process of building new barns and new buildings. We're moving out of where we are on the farm. We're just going to a different part of the farm, and it'll be right beside the gallops. We have our own gallops and that, and it'll be a huge, big asset to us. And it's on top of a hill, so it's quite airy and cold. But that's what we love up here. You know, there'll be plenty of airflow, and that's a very important part here in Ireland. Anyway, when you're training horses, to have very good fresh air with horses, and it'll be. I'm really looking forward to it. Hopefully, be in it in the next 3 or 4 months with the buildings up, and you know, I'm looking forward to moving in there.
Yeah. And so, from when you began to now, what are some real highlights of your career?
Well, you know, I thought I was dreaming last year for a while, and the year before we came across a horse called the Case of You. He took me out to Paris. I was second on his very first Group 1 we ever ran him in, and I
Jeez.
thought that was on the Curragh, and I walked out of the Curragh that day, and I said, God, I said, it might never happen, you know, and I said, that could be the closest we'll ever get to a Group 1, and we supplemented him then for Paris and Longchamp, and he won the Abbey that day, and I have to say, that day in Paris was a day you'll always bring to the grave with you, because it was just unbelievable. And then we brought him home. He went to the Breeders' Cup and he ran 5th there, which was a brilliant run on a track he wouldn't have really liked. And then we brought him out to Dubai last year. And as I said, I thought I was dreaming when I was in Paris, but after the Dubai World Cup night was like that night, and the whole build up to the whole race for the whole week, and he won it. It was just surreal. Them 2 days, I don't think I could ever split them, but we had a fabulous, like, the experience of it all. And we were a small stable coming from Ireland, you know, with just the 1 horse over there at that time, and to do that on that stage, and the money the horse won, it was just unbelievable.
And how did a Case of You come to be with the stable?
He was sold to Hong Kong, and there was a problem with an X-ray or something, that they weren't happy with it. And when you sell to Hong Kong and even to America, the same, there could be a very, very, very small thing, and they reject them. The vets rejected him, and we went back and we looked at the horse, really liked him, and we X-rayed him. We got him all done, and the vet actually that had X-rayed him for Hong Kong, he passed. He says, I could not fault this horse. He had little nodules. There were sort of growth things on his knees, and when we bought him, it was about 6-7 weeks after he'd been X-rayed for America, and he couldn't believe it. He said, I can't fault this horse, he said, and I'd give this horse 100%, you know, a pass. And we bought him, and when he came into our yard, he never threw a lame step in his life. He was just, you know, we never had a problem. He was a super horse to train, and
then he went on to, you know, achieve what he's achieved. That's insane, and you hear it happen all the time, you know. So it just blows my mind when I hear stories like that.
He's actually down in your country now. He's down in Australia.
Really? Okay.
Yeah, he's down in Australia. He's in I think Mick Kent has him.
Okay. Nice. Yeah, I'll have to keep an eye out for him. Yeah.
Yeah, he's heading, I think, to the Spring Carnival there this year.
Yeah. That's awesome. And so you mentioned you bought him, you know, when he didn't pass the physical for Hong Kong. you've really been at the face of turning your business around by investing in top quality horses, thoroughbreds, and taking them around the world, for success. Could you tell us more about that strategy, and why it's so important about with
Yeah,
you moving forward?
we find in Ireland, for me to compete in the yearling market in Ireland is very, very hard. We haven't got the capital to go in, and I can't buy £500,000 worth of yearlings
Yeah.
every year.
Yeah.
If I'm only going to spend 150 grand on yearlings, I'm basically at nothing. And I said, we yeah, they might be any good. Like, you could spend maybe 200 grand in yearlings in this country and end up with 3 65 rated horses at the end of it, or 4 65 rated horses. And that for the clients I have, it's very hard to do that. It's virtually impossible. And we found a niche that we go to the sales, we look at horses. Maybe there's a little problem. A horse that I have before he's still with me, current option, he's a horse that has won Group 3s listed, and he had a problem with an X-ray, and we bought him out of the Newmarket Horse and Trade Sales, and like, he has just taken, he's won 3 big handicaps in Galway as well. I think his earnings is over 450,000 euros, which is a huge amount for horses in Ireland. We find out, we see what type of horse it is. If there's a little problem and he's a very, very good horse, we might chat, we take him. Salt and Stall was another ex-Godolphin horse that bled badly, and we bought him, I think, for 44,000 euros, and he's won 2 Galway miles. He's won a listed race. He's getting on. He's 8-year-old now, but he's a super horse, and we have a good way with bleeders here where we are, especially during the summer, and it just suits. We keep them in open barns and that, and it's a huge help to them. And we find with them type of horses, we're far better off than a very, very good horse that's lost his form, but he has to be sound. And if we get them, we're beside the beach as well, and it's a huge help. We can often take the horses from, instead of going to the gallops, we'd head down to the beach for a day or 2 days. And I know we had a winner the other night in Dundalk, an old horse that won out in Doha for me called Borman, and he'd lost his way a little bit, and he ran very well 2 weeks ago, and we practically done 3 or 4 days in the beach with him between the races, and he won quite snug the other night for us. So it's all getting into the mind and them type of horses, and we seem to have a way with them type of horses, and we go that way because the yearling market is, you could end up with very little, and we've been lucky with yearlings as well. We do buy a few yearlings every year, and we're real sellers in that way, that if we do get a horse that we feel that makes some money, he's gone, and we sell him. We've sold a good few horses to America, and they've done really well in America. We had a very good filly that she won, I think, the Group 2 in Kentucky Derby night 3 years in the trot. Her winnings went over $1.5 million in America. So we do sell them as well. And in our operation at home here too, you have to sell as well as, you need to be selling a few horses every year to make the bill, to keep the whole thing afloat. And this country is a real country of sellers as well,
For sure. And you now prepare a real appeal for Qatar. Could you tell us a little bit about him and thoughts on his form ahead of his campaign?
Yeah, a horse that we picked out. He came from Jessica Harrington's last October at the Horse and Training Sale. Actually ran in the Breeders' Cup last 2 years, in 2021. And he's a very high-class horse, but he just lost his way a little bit and just wasn't, typical our type of horse. And we decided that, if we could get him at the proper money, he's worth a punt. And he's a Group 3 winner and a Group 2 winner here in Ireland, which you have to be quite a smart horse to win them type of races. And he won Champions Weekend in Ireland 2 years ago. So I said, class is permanent, form is temporary. And that's the theory we looked at with a horse like him. And we brought him back. He had a long break after we bought him at the sales, and we were just tipping away with him at home. We didn't really had him wound up, and I know I spoke to Shane Foley and a few of them, and they said they'd never had him in Dundalk, and I'm not too far away from our all-weather track. It's only a 50-minute drive down the road, and I remember bringing him down there one day for a piece of work just after Christmas, and he just floated around it, and he won very snug the night he won down there on his pre-run before Doha, and he beat 2 very smart horses at Joseph's, and he looked very impressive. He's in very, very good form. and we were in Doha last year and the year before. We won the race the year before. We were second last year, and we just felt this horse was the ideal candidate for that race. And fingers crossed, he'll put up a huge performance out there.
And what's his program look like? Not only there, but once he gets back home.
Yeah, we have him entered in Dubai as well for Super Saturday and that. But if he runs really well out here, we might bring him back. And there's a couple of group. He doesn't in Ireland here. When you win a group race, say a Group 2 or a Group 3, you'll carry a penalty for 12 months. And he didn't win any of them races last year, or he didn't win a group race last year. He did year previous. So this year coming in this season, he won't have to carry that group penalty in a Group 3 or a Group 2. So we'll campaign him around Leopardstown and that for them type of races, and I think he'll collect one of them races somewhere through the year, and then we'll look at a Royal Ascot Pro. We'll pick a race out for Royal Ascot for him, and we'll go from there and probably travel again later on the year.
And you also have Harry's Bar for the Riyadh Dirt Sprint. How are those plans coming along? Are they firmed up, or are they still in the process?
He's reserve. He's reserve at the moment, and he runs on Friday in Dundalk this Friday on our all-weather. I don't know whether we're going to get into it at the moment. He's a very, very high-class horse on grass or on our all-weather surface. And dirt, I think when you run a horse on dirt, you need to. I think a horse needs practice when they run on dirt. In my opinion, it takes a couple of runs for them to familiarize. When to just to get used to it, and that's a problem. I'm just gonna. Oh, it's gone. It's off.
Sorry.
No problem. But I don't know whether he's going to go or not. But he'll run in Dundalk this Friday night first, and then we'll see what will happen then. And he's entered up in Dubai as well. If we were going there, we'd take the 2. If we don't, we won't. We mightn't. We'll get the first Middle East run out of the way first, and then we'll make a plan. And if not, in Ireland, in Harry's Bar has 2 different marks as well, so he's very low on the grass in Ireland. So I think there's a very big race, a good big handicap in him in Ireland on the grass as well. So we'll target him at one of them later on the year.
And you mentioned you have them both, nominated. You have Real Appeal nominated for the Dubai Turf and the Group 2 Godolphin Mile, while Harry's Bar nominated for the Golden Shaheen. And you've pretty much answered that question, just saying, we're going to focus on Qatar and Riyadh, and then move on from there. Let them set the program for themselves going forward.
Yeah, that's basically what we'll do. And then there's a good program at home as well, like in Ireland as well. And I know every time you come out, when you compete in Ireland, when you pull out, you're looking at a Ballydoyle horse, or or a very good horse from Coolmore, or Joseph has a phenomenal team of horses as well. And it's very, very hard here in this country to compete. And again, these guys, and when you get a horse that you can, it's great, but it's not simple now. It's very competitive.
And with the stable of 40 currently, are there any other potential stars, that are ready to showcase what they have, not only domestically at home in Ireland, but also, abroad, whether it be Qatar, Saudi, or Dubai?
Yeah, well, the horse I mentioned earlier on, Current Option, he's been he's so consistent for over the last few years. And like our big handicaps here in Ireland are worth a lot of money for us. And you basically, if you win a group race or a listed race in Ireland, you get double of what you get if you win a good Premier handicap. We call them, you get twice as much money for winning them. So we target them races more. So look at, if you have a filly, you will target the black type. But if I have a gelding, I'm not really doing, and I don't own if I don't own the dam or that, so I'll target the money rather than the black type races for them, because it means more to our owners to get the money. And we have a very strong team of horses for that this year. I think we've about 7 or 8 horses over 100 and over 90, which will be Premier Handicap Plus horses. I think we've 16 horses, and I run plenty of horses in these handicaps. It's a bit like Willie Mullins over the weekend in Ireland, over in the Leopardstown Racing Festival. He 2 or 3 hot pots turned over, but he still won them with a 2nd or 3rd string. So the more you have in these races, the better chance you have if your fancied horse doesn't let you down, as a backup. And these races are worth a lot of money. We've bought, I think, 4 or 5 new horses that will fit them bills now. Whether they go on to be black type horses after that, I don't know, but We bought one out of Michael Mulvaney's that it's heading to the Lincoln. We've another one bought out of Johnny Fiend that heads to the Lincoln. You know, they're good, and I find this year it's very, very competitive. Or last year, I should say, the back end at Newmarket, the horses we were trying to buy, it's gone very competitive because of the competition from the Middle East and Australia. You know, I think the top 20 lots in Newmarket horse and training sale last year either went to the Middle East or Australia.
Jeez. Yeah.
It's very, very competitive now, and we're paying probably a quarter more for the horses now than what we would have paid 2 or 3 years ago. But that's just the market we're living in at this moment in time. And, you know, the best luck to everybody to doing it.
Yeah. And having your license, training license for coming on 24 years now, having received it in 1999, how long have you been traveling out to Qatar, Saudi, and Dubai?
I was in Dubai back in the very, I think the first or second carnival. I went out with a sprinter I had. I wasn't long training, and it was a great experience. And when I went back out a couple of years ago, we sent horses out in COVID. I didn't travel that year. I went to Saudi that year, and I couldn't believe the facilities. You know, it was just phenomenal. And the same with Qatar. We went out there last year. We traveled the year before as well with COVID, but I just sent a lad with him that year. And you know, these people, that the prize money they put up, they look after you, they supplement you going out, and you know, it's a no-brainer if you have a horse that's good enough to compete. And there's great experience. My owners love traveling out. It's just the experience of the whole thing, and as I said, it's just brilliant. And you know, you just get looked after so well, and then you meet people, and you know, I met a lot of people in the last 12, 14 months, you know, from traveling. And you go to the sales, you might meet them in Ascot, you could meet them anywhere after, and it's great. You know, the more people you meet in this game, the better.
And you've covered it twice in the past few minutes about the importance as a trainer to, you know, put the work in for your owners. And you're the home of Shamrock Thoroughbreds, a successful syndicate who owns Real Appeal. Why are syndicates so important in today's, you know, horse ownership world, as well as, you know, how important is the factor as a trainer to make sure that the owner's looked after, as you said, you know, on this ride that is horse ownership?
Yeah, look, we could buy cheap horse in the morning. You could have a bunch of lads they'll invest £1,000 a piece into it. You know, you could put 10 lads in to have a bit of fun going to the local tracks. They go out, they enjoy their day at the races, they have a few beers and have a bite to eat, and you know, they really enjoy themselves to get a win, and it's brilliant. And then you move up to the higher level, and I think it's gone this way. You know, you've a lot like the likes of Real Appeal runs under Shamrock's colours, and there's 3 owners in him, which is great. Rather, you know, and the guys they have a big part to play. You know, the guy that even owns a third of them, there's a big investment, and they have a big say in the horse, and they have a great chance then of going out and experiencing the likes of Qatar and that. And so we've Dooley Thoroughbreds as well. They're involved, and they have a lot of horses with me as well, and they're the same. They own half, you know, they could own a half share in a horse. They own some full horses, and it's just a brilliant way to get involved. And even high class horses you can get involved. And I think there's a lot of even syndicates involved in very, very high class horses as well, which is it's great for everybody.
And having, you know, sent horses to Qatar, to Saudi, to Dubai, you know, all through Ireland, as well as, you know, you mentioned a case of you in Australia. What's an international race, as well as, you know, a race in the Middle East that you would love to win and really compete to the top level in?
Look, I won that sprint last, and the experience I had that day, that night. You're treated like a rock star, really, when you win something like that out there. And you know, if I could ever do that again in one of them races, it would be just, you know, I don't know, is there any better place in heaven? But
yeah,
it's, you know, and that's the way I feel. And any of them big races, like to win a Group 1 anywhere is for small guys like me is sort of a, you know, it's dream stuff. And probably like to win a Group 1 at home sometime, just to, you know, to do it on the home soil. But even the experience of definitely World Cup night, if you have a winner World Cup night, I don't know where, you know, the experience and that whole setup, the atmosphere of the whole thing, between the opening of the event and the closing of the event that night was just surreal. It's unbelievable.
And just, in the time that you've been training, and as you said, there were moments, obviously, where you thought, why am I doing this? And, you should just throw it in. What's the biggest lesson you've learned in this time, in this industry, in this business, doing what you do?
Yeah, I think it's like any sport in this day and age. The more capital you have a great chance of finding better horses. And of course, I know a KCU was sold for €3,000 as a yearling, but that's, to me, you don't go out to find that horse. You come across them, and there's two different ways of it. And I could go out and buy $3,000 horses for the next 6 or 7 years, and I wouldn't find a horse like him, And it's, I suppose, you can, and there is lads, and it happens every year, and even in Ireland, you'll get a lad that has come across a cheap horse, and he's going to, he's turning into a superstar, that's the beauty of the game. It leaves us in some people. You can dream, and all of a sudden the dream can become a reality, which is brilliant. But it's like the good football teams in England and the good managers in England, they have the capital to go out and buy the good players. And if you haven't got the capital to go out and buy your horses, it's very, very, very hard to compete. So you need, and we sort of target our different niches in the market. Like, would I want to be training a yard full of middle distance horses and taking on Aidan O'Brien with them type of horses every day? I don't think I would be able to, because they're so powerful in my, and that's why we target, we target different areas of niches in the game that we can try and excel in. And that's why it's very important with the likes of Shamrock Thoroughbreds and that we have them syndicates that we can, sometimes we go to Stephen will go to sales and you buy the horse and we bring him home then, and we break him up into shares, which is great for the ordinary fella. Then can get part of a very, very good horse as well, and experience all this. But it is all capital, and you need good horses to train. Like, as I said, Michael Schumacher never won a Grand Prix in a Mini. That's just it, and it's the same with all walks of life of sport, in my opinion.
Yeah, most definitely. Thanks so much for this, Ado. It's been great. Thanks for joining us on Etihad Cargo Connections.
Cheers.
Thanks, Ado. Thanks, mate.
Thank you very much. Thank you.